Councilmember Harrington. Aye. Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. No presentations tonight, so on to consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Yes, sorry. I was doing,
Suzanne?
I'd like to pull item
I got audio now.
C,
What?
and D. Yeah, A, C, and D.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Shelley?
I'd like to pull item F as in Frank.
Hey, any other discussion?
So, it's recorded, we got audio.
Hearing none to the remaining items. Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. Suzanne, item A.
Item A is a bills list, and I just have a couple of questions on some of the itemized items there. The first question is dues and subscriptions for an International Code Council. I wonder if that can be explained to me, what it is, what it means.
Those, Suzanne, those are the things that we have to do to keep up with all the books for the building codes, and these books are used for the courses that the building official and the building inspector take for their continuing education.
So, but it says international. Do we have codes from?
No, that's just the title of it. It has nothing to do with international as far as we're concerned.
All right, my next question is under also building inspections for sloth inspections. Are we paying somebody else to do inspections also in addition to our people, or what is this? What was this for?
That is for the electrical inspector, and the electrical inspectors have different qualifications than the building official and the building inspectors. We don't have people that are certified to do this. Most people don't. So we contract with Andy Sloth, and he charges us 75% of the fees we take in.
Okay, and then the professional service fees for Rum River Construction Consultants.
Actually, that is a bill that was incurred through the end of November, or last half of October, the first half of November for 2020. We just received it here a couple weeks ago. So that were costs that were incurred 4 months, and we're now paying the bill.
So, but what was it for?
That was for the temporary inspector that we needed because we were getting such an onrush of business in the building departments.
All right, and then over under fire department, that 19,000 under universal truck service, was that for the repair of that fire truck, or was that for something else?
No, that was for the repair of that fire truck. It was a partial engine rebuild.
All right, and classic construction for $25,000 for refuse removal. What was that for?
That was for the demolition of the Faro Gas building. They were the low bidders on the contract, and that was what that expenditure covered.
All right. And then I guess my last question is for recycling operations, PTL Tire and Automotive, that just didn't make sense to me.
Let me find that one.
Well, at least we got audio. So. That sounds good.
Suzanne, I will have to look that one up and let you know. I'm not sure what that is. If you'll hang on, I have the bills here. I can do that right now. are for tires that we purchased for the Bobcat that's down there, installation of them, tubes and valve stems.
Okay, because I was thinking, I didn't think they had a vehicle, but now that you said Bobcat, now I remember. Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve item A on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye. That motion passes. Suzanne, item C.
Item C is the firework contract for Booster Day, which I don't have a problem with. I'm just concerned that it said that there's nothing else scheduled for that day except for the medallion hunt. And I'm just wondering if they're going to meet because things are winding down with COVID from what I can see. All these other states are opening up and maybe they can, I'm just hoping that they'll bring up vendors or table games or something because with Walmart's being open and Costco's and all these other places, I think they can do something if they can at least socially distance or something. That's all I wanted to bring up with that. So item C on the consent agenda, I will make a motion to approve that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion? So Suzanne, you didn't have any concern with the actual bill?
Correct. I just wanted to make a statement about that I'm hoping that Booster Days is able to do more.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. Suzanne, item D.
Item D is the declaring of surplus property for that stage. And I'm just have a question. Didn't we use that stage for other things like for Booster Days, for Fireman's Dance and stuff like that? Or that's the only thing we use it for? Because I just thought I remember it being used and discussed to be used for other things.
Suzanne, that stage has only been used for the pageant for the E-Special Scholarship Program. The fire department has always rented a stage for the band. This stage was built probably almost 18 years ago, maybe 19 years ago. It's very heavy, it takes up a lot of space, and the pageant has said that they're pausing or discontinuing their operation. And if they resume it, they will probably be looking maybe at another venue to hold this other than the ice arena. So at this time, based on the decision of the pageant, we no longer need the stage, we need the space in our cold storage.
Okay, and the cold storage building is up by the ice arena or?
No, it's right behind their public works building. We store
Okay.
equipment in there and product.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve item D on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Motion made and second. Any discussion?
Say, Jack, on that stage, is it safe or is it something that we're gonna, I see you're gonna put it out for bids. Is it still safe to be put out for bids?
It probably is, but I think its only value would be somebody that wanted to scrap it and just break it down for the lumber.
Okay, thanks.
It's just too heavy and cumbersome to really use. It serves
Well, I mean, I just don't want,
well.
somebody buying it and somebody getting hurt, that's my biggest thing, so.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. Shelley, item F.
On the application for the tobacco license for Dollar General, I was looking on page 4, item F, and it states on there, a tobacco license for the convenience store / gas station. I don't believe Dollar General has anything to do with gasoline. So I was just wondering why that was, the words gas station was in there.
You're absolutely correct, Shelley. There is no gas involved at Dollar General, and we'll make sure that's the right.
I make a motion to approve the change on item F to get rid of gas station.
Second.
Motion made in second, discussion. Does that, the fact that the license application is filled out incorrectly, does that affect anything?
We will just refill the application. It will be approved with the gas station removed, and then we won't sign it until we get that correct.
Okay, but we can still approve it?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, to the motion, Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundle.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. So that completes consent agenda. We'll now move on to new business. Jack?
This time I'll turn it over to Stephanie Hansen for the presentation of the planning commission items on the agenda.
Good evening, Stephanie.
Hello, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so tonight on the agenda, we have the preliminary plat for Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition, and the applicant is CD Properties LLC. In 2014, City Council approved the plat for Classic Commercial Park 3rd Edition. The plat is attached in your packet. That plat consists of one buildable lot and one outlot. City code states that the issuance of a building permit is not allowed on outlots unless the City Council approves it. There is an interested business that would like to purchase and build on the outlot. Since the lot is legally described as an outlot, the property owner would like to replat the property for building purposes. There will be no changes to the lot size or anything else. The only change will be the legal description from outlot A, Classic Commercial Park 3rd Edition, to lot 1, block 1, Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition. At the time Classic Commercial Park 3rd Edition was platted, park dedication fees were only collected for the lot 1, block 1, and not for the outlot. So park dedication fee is determined by 5% of the fair market value of the unvalued of the land, not to exceed $2,000 per acre. Staff is currently working with the property owner to determine the amount that will be required for the dedication fees, which those will need to be paid prior to the release of the final plat for filing with the local county. On February 23rd of this year, the commission held a public hearing. There was no public input, and the commission recommended approval on a 7-0 vote. So at this time, the commission recommends approval of the preliminary plat known as Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition, with the conditions set forth in the resolution that is attached to your report.
Make a motion to approve the preliminary plat known as Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition with the conditions set forth in the attached resolution 2021-12.
I'll second.
And motion is made in second, discussion.
I'm just wondering if they know what the business is that's wanting to build in there?
Yes, we do know, and that site plan review should be coming within the next month to review. So they do have a buyer for the lot.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundle.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. And 6A2.
And this is the final plat for Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition. On February 23rd, again, the commission recommended approval on a 7-0 vote on the final plat. There were no discussion. So at this time, the Planning Commission recommends approval to City Council for the final plat known as Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition with the conditions set forth in the attached resolution.
Make a motion to approve the final plat known as Classic Commercial Park 4th Edition with the conditions set forth in the attached resolution 2021-13.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Hearing none, Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
There was a pause.
Councilmember Beck. Councilmember Mundle.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, that motion passes. On to item 6A3.
This agenda item is the final plat for the plat known as Whispering Aspen 2nd Edition, and the applicant is Firebird Land.
If I can interrupt Stephanie, I will be abstaining from discussion and voting for this agenda item.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
On November 9th of 2020, City Council approved the preliminary plat with the conditions that city staff comments must be satisfactorily addressed and a financial agree in the amount determined by the city engineer shall be established for street, utility, and grading work prior to the release of the final plat for recording with Anoka County. Attachment 3 of your packet is the approval letter by the city engineer, which indicates city staff comments are satisfied. Once the final plat is approved by City Council, the city engineer will submit the amount of the financial guarantee. Once staff receives the funds, the mileage will be released for filing with Anoka County. On February 23rd, 2021, the Planning Commission discussed the final plat. The discussion included the concern of snow removal in the cul-de-sac, and the Commission recommended approval on the final plat on a 6-1 vote. As part of the preliminary plat and the final plat discussion, the Planning Commission again had concerns regarding the snow storage in the cul-de-sac. Fire Chief Descharmes and Public Works Manager Nate Ashford provided comments, and it's been determined that snow storage will not be an issue. Chief Descharmes and Mr. Ashford are at this meeting tonight, and they can answer additional questions in more detail in regards to that. Then also at the commission meeting, the question was brought up regarding the existing street width of the first phase of the development. And just for clarification, the roads were already constructed prior to Fireland purchasing the land from the city of East Bethel. The existing roads were constructed in around 1984, 1985, where Whispering Aspen plat was approved in 2005. So the lots that are existing in this plat, the configuration was designed around existing roads. So tonight, the final plat for Whispering Aspen 2nd Edition, the streets pertaining to the plat and the proposed cul-de-sac, and not the existing streets that were constructed back in 84 and 85. So this time, the commission did recommend City Council's approval of the final plat, again known as Whispering Aspen 2nd Edition, with the conditions set forth in the attached resolution. And Mr. Mundle Senior is on the call if you have any additional questions for him.
I'll make a motion for approval of resolution 2021-14, approve the final plat for Whispering Aspen 2nd Edition.
Is there a second? I will second that motion. Discussion.
Yeah, Steve, I have one question for Mr. Nelson. If this is turned down, will there be liability or consequences to the city at all?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Harrington, With that, I would just refer to the statutory provisions as they relate to subdivisions, saying that if the conditions are met from the preliminary plat, there were conditions as Stephanie outlined. If those conditions are met, the city shall certify approval within 60 days if the applicant has complied with conditions and requirements of applicable regulations. So if the conditions have been met, which the staff report indicates that they have been, the requirement of the statute is to certify approval of the final plat.
Thanks.
Shelley?
I did listen in on the meeting for that, and I still have some issues with the number of houses on the cul-de-sac. Their lot sizes are going to be small, and I mean, I thought we were supposed to, try to keep East Buffalo rural, but the biggest thing that I have is the snow removal. With having 6 houses on that cul-de-sac, you're going to have at least 2 cars per house. So now you're looking at 12 cars, and the chances of having children there are going to be extremely great. And if they plan on pushing all the snow into the middle of the cul-de-sac, there's no way to stop the kids, because parents, so nowadays they can't keep their kids under control. The kids are going to start using the snow pile as a sledding hill, and they're going to be in the middle of a street until the city of East Bethel can come and get the snow out. And that also, to get the snow out, is another expense to bring in a front end loader, a truck, and whatever. I can't see that being a reasonable. I think to have 6 houses on a cul-de-sac just so a developer can get, 1 extra house in there, I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Jack or Stephanie, if I remember correctly, this development was ghost platted with the original plat. Is that correct?
Yes, it was ghost platted, and that was also approved back in 2005.
Okay. So it's part of the agreement that the city has with Firebird Development.
Yes, and it does comply with what was approved in 2005.
So basically, the lot layout on that cul-de-sac that was decided back in 2005.
Yes, it was.
So we're not looking at a new development. This was planned out, and the city really has no choice here. We have an agreement with this developer that they can develop these lots this way. It's part of a planned unit development. So, as Stephanie explained in planning, our regular zoning codes don't apply to those things that are part of that PUD.
Okay.
So,
I've heard a couple things from residents, so.
I mean, you're right in that, if this was a new development, developing new land, there's no way they'd be allowed to do this by code or even by choice. So, but because, of this type of development, the fact that, the city's under contract to have it developed this way. And as I think Stephanie or Jack explained, we've already approved the preliminary plat for this. And Nate's on the line, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Jack's already mentioned about the snow storage, or maybe Steph has about snow storage and how our staff is okay with that. Maybe Nate, can you explain how we handle these cul-de-sacs in Whispering Aspen and elsewhere?
Yep, good evening, Mayor, good evening, council members. With this cul-de-sac, it is gonna require anything over a moderate snowfall to have some storage in the center of the cul-de-sac. Small snowfalls, we will try and push it between the houses as best we can. As it gets a little bit more, it's hard for us and it's hard for the residents there. It starts to fill up their yards and their driveways a lot more than, what we'd like to see. It's a common practice in some other suburb cities that where they store year round or all through the winter in the center of the cul-de-sac. So what we would do is push it to the middle as best we can, make enough room for the fire trucks and emergency vehicles to get through there. And then we typically have to go up to Whispering Aspen and quite a few other cul-de-sacs actually about 2 to 3 times a year and move snow piles that just get to be too big. So we would just add this one to our rotation. And it's trial and error, but I think it would be manageable.
Nate?
If a child or someone were to get hurt on with that snow pile, would the city be liable for that?
Chris?
Well, as ever, there's always a risk of liability in any situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that they would be successful, and might not prevent them from bringing a suit, but cities do tend to get sued for a lot of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a court would find liability in this case.
Nate, you mentioned that, or it sounded like you mentioned that we're already having to do this in other cul-de-sacs?
Correct, yep. We do it, the other one in Whispering Aspen gets pretty filled up, even just down the street. There's probably, I would say, 30 of them that we do 2 to 3 times a year.
So this isn't unique to the city. We have this issue elsewhere.
No, we have problems in a lot of cul-de-sacs. They're kind of our nemesis, but this one will be unique because we're going to have to use the center for a little bit. So that'll be the first time that we've done that. But like the city of Woodbury, that's how they do all their cul-de-sacs. And I don't know, we could check and see what the liability is with them on that, I guess, too. But yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I have concerns with this too, with the snow. Where are the residents going to put their snow? They can't put it in the street and then they can't put it on each other's yard. If we have a huge snowfall, there's gonna be some problems. And where are they supposed to have their visitors park if there's no room in their driveway? I just think it's too crowded, and I don't think that it would hurt for them to put 4 or 5 there instead of the 6. Even though it was approved in 2005, that's why things aren't 100% approved, because as things change and technology and all that stuff comes up, we and new council members come in, we get to change things. And contract or not, I'm not ready to vote for this. The city insists on residents follow codes even though they've had verbal contracts with the city in the past, and they have to change up and pay thousands of dollars to come to code, even though they had verbal contracts with the city. Now, because this was a written contract, they get away with breaking code. I just don't think that's right.
Okay, well, for Suzanne, before you get too far, Jack, when did we approve the preliminary plat for this?
The original preliminary plat was approved with the signing of the developers agreement back in 2004. It's part of the developers agreement, and it was done then, and the final plat was approved in 2005.
But we just, for this second edition, when did we consider the vote on the preliminary plat?
We did that November the 9th, 2020.
Okay, and that passed.
That's correct. It was unanimous by council.
So Suzanne, you voted for this in November, correct?
for what came up, but there's a lot of things that have transpired since that I have discovered since then. Even the engineers who we contracted had the road measurements wrong, and the road measurements are not to code, and they don't even have the correct measurements in that report they did. It's 28 feet. I think they put 30 and the code is 31 point something. So
Suzanne, for a PUD, it's 24 feet. You better look at the PUD before you start going for codes. It's 24 feet.
Tim,
That's what it is right now. I measured last Friday when I was up there.
Tim,
It's not 30 feet.
Tim, there is no code for PUD.
Right.
And this street was designed in the early to mid '80s and approved by city council at that time as a PUD for a manufactured home subdivision. There's low traffic volume in here. The pavement width on this street leading into the cul-de-sac is 24 feet, which is more than adequate to handle 6 to 10 houses on that street. The urban standard in our engineering manual is different, but again, these standards don't apply because this was approved as a PUD with different standards and approved by the city council of East Bethel in 1984-85. So our current standards really don't apply to this because it is a PUD. Mr. Yoakum is also here if he wants to comment on the question about the width of the streets.
Craig, is there a discrepancy that's been stated here?
I'm not sure what the discrepancy is, but basically they're matching the street width that is there today.
Suzanne, what was the concern over the differences? You said there's numbers that are wrong on the drawings.
Suzanne, can I step in on this?
go ahead. I was just about to start, but go ahead. I didn't write it down, so.
The resident that went out and measured it at 28 feet 8 inches, and it should be the code of 31 feet, which is 2 feet 4 inches too narrow, is what I have.
Okay.
Right, so the 31 feet is the current code. The current city code, which we're saying wouldn't apply to this plat, but.
So, Suzanne, what you're stating is someone told you what the dimensions were.
They went and measured it, and
You measured it?
no, one of the people who called me measured it, and it was also brought up in the planning commission. Somebody there measured it, and they said it was 28 something feet, but the report, what was the contractor's name that turned in the report? Because they had it different too. They said it was 30 feet, and our code says 31 point something feet. So my point is, the contractor's report was wrong, that the city or whoever hired to evaluate all that.
I assume this is our city engineer that's being referred to.
Well, I don't know, because I was under the impression that they contracted somebody else to do it. I don't know, Craig, if it was a city or if it was another contractor.
We did not do the plans, we just reviewed them. I guess I didn't physically go out and measure the street. But according to their plans, they indicate they are building a 30-foot street.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was trying to say. They said 30. It's actually 28.4 or something, and our code says 31. So it's just, there's conflicting stuff all over the place regarding this.
Well,
No attention to detail.
Yeah, Suzanne, keep in mind the 31 feet is not a code issue. It doesn't apply in this case.
But it should, is my point.
Well, if you're not going to accept that as a fact, then there's no need to discuss it further because that is what's in our contract with this PUD. You can't just choose to apply codes that don't apply. Correct? Do you agree with that?
Well, I would if it were standard across the board, but it's not. We treat one contract one way and we treat another contract another way, even though it was a verbal contract.
Could you expand on that and give us examples of what you're talking about? You made those accusations at the planning meeting as well.
Yes, we've had residents that, since I've been on the board, several of them who were not, one was not grandfathered in and had to spend thousands of dollars to redo their property because they bought it and things changed. And then there was the other person who had well, a couple of people had shipping containers and they were forced to be removed even though the city said they could have it, which is a verbal contract.
What specific? The city stated verbally they can keep something. So.
Yes, and previously, 10 years ago, and then this current city said, nope, you can't keep it. It's against our code.
So how does this apply directly to this final plat?
It applies because you're not maintaining a standard. You're letting one contract get away with not following code, and you're making other contracts get away with, force them to break verbal contracts. So yeah, it's just wrong. It's wrong how the city treats residents all over the place.
Chris, if we deny this final plat or it doesn't get approved, there's the issue of the city not following through with the preliminary plat, which is you already described. But then the city also has a contract with Firebird. I assume that would be a separate legal matter to deal with.
Mayor Voss and council members, the contract would be a separate legal matter. The issue with the preliminary plat is if the conditions that were placed on the preliminary plat have been met, Minnesota statute states that the city shall approve the final plat. If the city does not approve the final plat, the applicant can apply to the city to have it certified anyway, if those conditions have in fact been met. It would be incumbent upon the council to adopt findings about how and why the conditions placed on the preliminary plat haven't been met if it's going to deny approval of the final plat.
So when does it even come up for a vote then, if it's mandatory that it get approved?
In case, because the applicant is the one who brings it up for a vote, they have to apply within 60 days. If they have to apply for it within a year for final approval, and then it has to come before the council within 60 days to certify that the conditions placed on the preliminary plat have been met. So it's not mandatory. It relates to the conditions that were placed on the preliminary plat on November 9th of 2020.
So can't they just modify their plat to make it 5 houses and appease the entire council, or does it have to be like this no matter what?
I that was not one of the conditions placed on the preliminary plat when it was approved on November 9th. So that would not be a condition that could be imposed at this time.
Jack or Stephanie, on the subject matter of change conditions from a preliminary plat, has there been anything that's changed or anything that wasn't addressed that was requested to be addressed during a preliminary plat approval?
There have been no changes and everything has been addressed. The only issue was, the snow in the cul-de-sac. People, commissioners and council members had some concerns on that.
And that was discussed at the final plat, right?
Yes, yes.
Not at preliminary.
No, I know city council discussed it at preliminary plat because we had talked to Chief DeSharm and Nate Ashford about it. So if that was discussed at, the city council meeting, how it would be taken care of.
Okay. And that plat was approved by council.
Mr. Mayor, could I add? So I did look up the plans just to clarify things. So the plan that was done by the developer's engineer indicates the existing road is 30 foot back of curb to back of curb. And our current standard is 31 feet. So again, I didn't physically go out and measure it. We just take the word for the engineer submitting the plans because they are certified, and I have no reason to believe that it's not right, so.
Thanks, Greg.
Steve, that 31-foot standard is for a urban street section. And again, as this is a PUD, that standard does not apply.
Still strong.
Any other discussion? Okay, there's no further discussion. I'll ask Mr. Nelson to take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
I don't know. I'm still concerned. What if a child gets killed?
We're past discussion, Suzanne.
No, nay.
Councilmember Beck.
Nay.
Mayor Voss.
Aye. And Brian abstains, so the motion fails. What's our next step? Jack or Chris? Do we need a findings of fact if this doesn't pass? Or do we need a motion to deny?
We'll need findings of fact to articulate why this hasn't passed. The council should adopt findings stating that. Additionally, it's likely not something, I believe the application came in for final approval, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack or Stephanie, on January 20th of this year, is that correct?
I would have to verify that. I don't have the application in front of me.
So I believe if that were the case, that the 60-day period in which it has to be acted upon would run before the next council meeting. So it's not something that could be brought back at the next council meeting.
And what is the net effect if nothing happens for the next council meeting?
If nothing happens before the next council meeting and the applicant can show that they met all the conditions placed on the preliminary plat, if the municipality has failed to certify final approval as required and the applicant has applied with those conditions that were placed, the application shall be deemed approved.
So it's going to be approved automatically?
Correct.
I guess that's where we're going to end up.
Well, Chris, can I ask Chris just a question, Chris, could this
Yes.
lead to a lawsuit? Could this lead to a lawsuit for the city, against the city?
Councilmember Harrington, I'm hesitant to comment on that other than a lawsuit likely wouldn't be necessary based on the language in the statute.
Okay.
If the application conditions have been met, the city wouldn't be in a position to certify. It'd be incumbent upon the council at this time to adopt findings about how the conditions based on the preliminary plat have not been met.
Okay.
So, Chris, are you suggesting we put together findings of fact tonight?
This would be the only opportunity to put together findings of fact. If the council doesn't have to put together findings of fact, it's only whether or not the council wants to make specific findings about why the conditions placed on the preliminary plat have not been met.
Yeah, I'm gonna hazard a guess that those findings of facts won't pass either. So I think what this is going to end up is the final plat for Whispering Aspen second edition will, by statute, because the city council failed to act on this, will pass just by the 60-day rule. Is that fair presentation, Chris?
Yes, Mayor, I believe it is.
Okay. All right, so then we're down to item 6A3. On to 6A4.
All right, this is for City Code Appendix A zoning map amendment and for Section 49 mixed use district, which is part of also the City Code Appendix A. So a little bit of a background. As part of this, we sent out just a little over 1,100 public hearing notices to the residents of East Bethel for the rezoning of the properties that would be affected by the proposed change. Prior to the public meeting, staff spoke to 52 property owners seeking clarification of what this means in regards to their properties, and after discussing the changes with them, each expressed that they were in favor of zoning changes. And then also after the public hearing, we still spoke with about a dozen more individuals, and they too were in support of changes. The calls were just wanting a little bit more clarification on what we were doing. Planning Commission held the public hearing on February 23rd of 2021. One resident was seeking clarification of rezoning of the properties around Coon Lake. Councilmember Beck and Councilmember Urkel were present and asked for clarification in regarding setback changes to properties, specifically in the southern portion of the city. Planning Commission recommended approval 7-0 of zoning map changes and zoning text amendments that included the following: creation of the Coon Lake Residential Zoning District, creation of the small lot single family residential zoning district, which would be known as R3, and then the amendment to change the city center district to the mixed use district. After further discussion and consideration, staff suggests City Council further discuss the proposed creation of the Coon Lake zoning district and the R3 single lot or small lot single family residential district, and the zoning change from R1 single family residential to RR rural residential for properties that are east of Highway 65 and south of Viking Boulevard. Staff wants to ensure the regulations are sufficient for each newly created district, address significant non-conforming issues, and ensure the understanding of rezoning specifically to properties from R1 to RR. At this time, staff suggests the adoption of only the mixed-use district. The mixed-use district, as part of the adoption of the 2030 comprehensive plan back in 2007 and the amendments to the 2007 zoning code, the city center district was created to conserve land within the MUSA for a mixed use of commercial and residential development, with the notion that municipal sewer and water would create more of a suburban type development. On December 14th of 2021, City Council adopted the 2040 comprehensive plan. The land uses previously known as city center have been changed to mixed use. Therefore, to ensure the compatibility between the comprehensive plan and the zoning code, the city center zoning district needs to be renamed to mixed use zoning district. Attachment 4 shows proposed changes to the zoning district regulations. The changes include the mixed use district leaves the designated city center zoning designation largely unchanged, with the exception of the removal of requiring a minimum of 20 acres per project. Staff proposes to not require a 20-acre minimum, as this may hinder development in some of the areas. Requiring all developments within the mixed-use district to be a PUD. The mixed-use area is intended to create a focal point in the community that may contain distinctly different development patterns with more urban structures of streets and blocks, commercial workplaces, neighborhoods, and parks and open space. The primary purpose of the PUD provisions is to allow flexibility and variation from conventional ordinance standards in exchange for higher standards of development design and creativity. Architectural controls, natural resource protections, landscaping, public parks, public and private open space protection, pedestrian access, and cohesiveness of developments within the district. So this time, staff is recommending City Council approve ordinance 2021-01, approval of the zoning map amendment to include only the mixed-use district and section 49 of the mixed-use district regulations. Then also to approve the summary of the publication. If City Council approves the map amendment to only include the mixed-use district, staff is required to update the official zoning map to make these changes. Staff also suggests City Council table the following items and continue further detailed discussions at the April 5th, 2021 City Council work session. The creation of the Coon Lake zoning district and regulations, the creation of small lot single family zoning district and regulations, and changes to zoning from R1 single family residential to RR rural residential for the properties south of Viking Boulevard. And showing on the map that I have right now, I have here the proposed map, and then the one over here is what our previous map was. And then I don't know if this the color did not come out on this, but what this is showing is specifically the mixed use areas are here in the city center area, so zoning would change in this area, and then up on the very northern end of the city, there's a area up here that would change. And again, these changes to the mixed use are just so they are in compliance with our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan shows these areas as a mixed use. So this is so zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan comply with each other.
Okay.
And I'm done with my presentation. Do you have any?
All right.
Can I make a comment quick?
Yes.
She has a date wrong on here. It says December 14th, 2021, but it was actually 2020.
Oh, I apologize for that. Thank you.
Sorry.
So I think the easier part of this is to deal with staff's recommendations on tabling the Coon Lake and the R3 and R1 zoning. So I'll move the table that to the next council work session.
Second that.
Okay, motion's made second. Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundle.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, that motion passes. So now back to the mixed use. We need a motion on the proposed resolution and summary. Is there a motion? Well, I'll get this going then.
Thank you.
I'll move approval of ordinance 2021-01. The city code appendix for zoning mixed use district and for publication of the summary.
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion. this was easier than I thought.
No, I'm trying to think of how to word my question. I'm really sorry. So the mixed use is right now that we're only talking about this area on 65, down by Viking Meadows and across the other side of 65 and 241st, right? That's all that this is covering tonight. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And then my other question is, if they decide to put, probably not, but a high rise over there, we could not approve that, right? Even though we're approving a mixed use?
That is correct.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Nelson, can you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye, and that motion passes. So there's no department reports tonight, and so we'll move right on to staff report. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. At this time, our city engineer, Craig Yoakum, is going to give an update on the status of the 186th Avenue to Viking Boulevard Service Road project. And then I will follow up with an action request on some information that I sent out earlier this afternoon and discuss this with you by telephone. So Craig, if you could bring us up to date on the status of the project, then I'll follow up with an action request that we need to consider.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so last Thursday, MnDOT provided final approval for the plans and authorized us to solicit bids for the Trunk Highway 65 East Service Road project. The project will be uploaded to the electronic bidding site tomorrow. Advertisement for bids will be in the March 12th Anoka County Union. So this will start our 21-day advertising process, and we plan on opening bids on April 2nd. The two outstanding items that we'll work on parallel with the bidding process is the U.S. Army Corps permit and the final cooperative agreement from MnDOT. These items will be completed prior to award of a contract, and it's anticipated that final bids will be presented to the City Council on April 12th. One other item is to accommodate the Quick Trip project that is planned this spring. The service road project schedule will require the sewer and water services to the Quick Trip to be completed by July 30th of 2021, and the first layer of bituminous must be completed on the service road by October 1st, 2021 to provide access. The service road project also requires that the contractor for the service road provide a construction access to the Quick Trip site at all times starting in May of 2021, which is when they anticipate to start construction, either later in May or early June. With that, is there any questions?
Any questions for Craig?
All right, with Craig's report, I did send out an email today indicating that there are 7 acres on the property that are within our road right-of-way easement that need to be cleared. These need to be cleared prior to March 31st. We'd hope to have the bids out earlier. The reason they need to be cleared is this is considered to be habitat for the long-tailed bat, and there can be no clearing or removal of that habitat in terms of vegetation between April 1st and October 31st. So we solicited 5 quotes from land clearers, submitted those to council earlier this afternoon, and the quotes we got back ranged from $15,000 to $96,700. The 2 low quotes, Rivard and YTS, were within $4,000 of each other. Rivard is a local company that have little mobilization cost. So in order to meet the tree clearing timetable, so it doesn't delay the project, staff is requesting that council approve the award of a contract for the clearing of 7 acres within the road right-of-way easement for barge companies of East Bethel, Minnesota, in the amount of $15,000.
And Jack, this will be eligible for reimbursement?
That's correct. We will apply for reimbursements from our MSA advance funding. This is done in May.
Okay.
And to add one other thing, the engineer's estimate for this portion of the project was $21,000 range, so we're well under the estimate. And that portion of the activity will be removed from the road project.
Okay. Is there a motion on this tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve art companies for the tree removal on for the new service road.
Second.
Seconded by Suzanne. Discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye. And that motion passes.
I only have one other item, and that is that road restrictions went into effect last Thursday, so all of our city roads are posted at 5 tons. County roads are posted at 7 and 9 tons, so there are some exceptions that we do allow. There are emergencies for septic system issues or well issues for heavier vehicles to get in, or if there's an avenue that a vehicle needs to get in, they can follow and stay on city roads that were designed for 9 or 10 tons. So if anybody has any questions about access, please refer those to Nate Ashford or myself. That's all I've got.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jack. Council reports. Tim.
We had a watershed meeting last Tuesday, March 2nd, for the Upper Rum. We approved, we had a discussion on the one watershed plan. We approved the joint powers agreement. And secondly, we, for 2020, the Upper Rum, we have a mini report out of what they did for 2020 and 2021 for both the Upper Rum and the Sunrise, and council members and the mayor will be getting copies at the next council meeting, so you can see what both watersheds did. And that's all I've got.
Great, thank you. Shelley.
Unfortunately, we have not had a meeting yet. It is scheduled for tomorrow night. So I should have something at our next meeting.
And that's Parks.
The parks, yep.
Okay. Brian.
February 25th was a North Highway 65 Corridor Coalition meeting. They discussed or introduced Highway 65 in Klondike, pretty much the same presentation that was given to council. The 65 Pell study was wrapping up. Apparently that's a study on the southern portion of 65 from about Spring Lake Park to the border of Ham Lake and Blaine as to what they can do to make corrections down there to move traffic along better. And video production was approved to make a video to develop short videos to showcase the 65 corridor and needed improvements. There'll be short videos with drones, and they'll be utilized to help promote and to put in front of different legislators to educate them about 65 issues. And that's it.
Great, thanks. Suzanne.
I had a planning commission meeting since the last meeting, and we just voted on everything that they discussed. I would like to know is who is paying for those drones for the 65? Is that video? Is that East Bethel, or is that Anoka, or is that a combination?
For that, the 65 Coalition dues are paid by each city, or by Anoka County, Isani County, Kennebec County, cities of Blaine, Bram, Cambridge, East Bethel, Ham Lake, Oak Grove, Spring Lake Park, townships of Athens, Brunswick, Cambridge, Comfort, Ford, Isanti, and Knife Lake. They have been paying dues for quite a long time. There is over $30,000 available, and so the short answer is the video production company that would be hired would have those drones. But that's where the money came from. So.
Thanks. Sorry I asked.
Anything else? Suzanne? Good. Earlier last week, Jack and I participated in a call with MnDOT and Anoka County Highway and consultant that MnDOT hired, and all regarding the signalized RCI at 65 and Viking. MnDOT hired an outside consultant to look at the intersection and kind of a clean set of eyes. And they did a lot of modeling, and so the call was mostly a report back. For those who drive through that intersection in the past month or so, and we talked about this last meeting, how the timing of the lights of the Viking Boulevard traffic has vastly improved. So you're not stopping at all three stoplights. For the most part, you're only stopping at one. Actually, there sounds like there's quite a bit of work that went into that, synchronizing those lights, but not only there, but also with the whole system. So they're continuing to work on that. They're continuing to work on other items, but basically they're came down to a few recommendations on changes to be made, safety improvements, basically. And so they just laid out the options, and the next step is they're going to start putting prices on that and start talking with the county and the state about how to best address it. So they're continually working on improving that intersection. They're continuing to include our city in those discussions, which is a very good sign. And everyone's pretty positive about making that intersection better. So that was the meeting we had last week. I wanted to relay a brief anecdote, and it's related to our home-based businesses that we have here. I visited a business in Maple Grove called North Glen Cabinets. They're basically cabinet makers. I was there because my mom's doing some remodeling, and we got to talking about I was from East Bethel, and kind of a long story short, it turns out that the owners of Northland Cabinets, which is a pretty big shop in Maple Grove, actually started in their garage in East Bethel as a home-based business back in the late 80s. And it's a family business. I was actually talking to their son that lived here till he was 6 years old, and he still remembers East Bethel. But I thought it was kind of an interesting story that here I am as mayor and some business in Maple Grove, and it turns out they started in our city as a home-based business. And that's kind of the whole flavor behind home-based businesses, so they can grow and prosper and do things like they did. So that was kind of a good story to have. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and we already talked about to some extent, and it's more of a question towards Suzanne, and the statements that you made at planning regarding your accusation that city staff treats residents differently than they treat businesses and developers, and alluding to the fact that we don't work on behalf of residents, we're only working on behalf of our developers. And I just want to ask it to make sure that you really meant that statement.
I didn't mean it for every resident, but some residents, several residents are very upset with the city. They say they call the city and they never get called back. They email the city and they never get responses back. I'm told that, and us at city council don't even hear about this. I'm told that, some residents are, being, well, they use the word harassed. I don't know that it's harassed, but, for code violations, and others are totally ignored. Some of these people feel like it's political because they had, opposition signs in their yard, and whereas you can look at where people who have had signs for, people who are elected in their yard have code, and violations all over the place, and nobody says a word. So I hear that all day, and, day in and day out. So that's
But-
what I was getting to.
Suzanne, with everything that you're told, do you ever follow up and independently confirm that those accusations are true? Because all you're doing, seems like, is this repeating what other people tell you. And because you're saying that that's true.
Well, it's true in their eyes, and when
They're not a city council member. You're a city council member, making accusations that we don't treat residents right. If that's the case, then we need to fix it and bring those individual cases to the city.
they haven't. I've always been the only person who's voted in favor of the residents. So where's the fix? And maybe we shouldn't be discussing this, like this, but if you want to, I'm game.
Well, you're making accusations against city staff and city council, and I think we all deserve to understand, the facts behind your accusations. So we don't need to do that tonight. We can do that offline. We can do another meeting, but.
Real quick, Steve, sorry. I have also had, some phone calls, from residents that have tried to get things resolved, with the city, and they have been put on the back burner or not been, reached back to. So I just wanted to say that, I guess.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I get those calls too. I imagine Tim and Brian also get concerns from residents about similar natures. But my point here is, Suzanne, is that you're making a statement to the public that the city does treat these people differently, and we give preferential treatment to others. And that's, if that's true, we need to find out and correct that.
Yeah, well, in my view, it's true. From what I see, it's true. From what the issues that have came before the council, and we don't even hear 90% of the, things the city hears, that everything doesn't come to us, so we don't hear everything. And, the ones I've heard in the 2+ years I've been on, they've came at open forum, they've came, and the city is just cut and dry. It's a code, we have to follow it. No lenience. I think that's wrong, and I think some of our ordinances are ridiculous, from the 5-car rule to, the shipping containers in the people's yards. It doesn't make any sense out here. So that's what I have nothing else to say.
Okay.
Steve, could I add just one thing to that? And
Yes, Jack.
for Suzanne, if somebody complains to you, if you would bring that to my attention, we will see that it's addressed. But if we don't hear it, then we can't do anything about it. So we would need to know who it was so we can take care of the issue. If you can do that, I would greatly appreciate it. We'll work on solving the problems.
Yeah, and oftentimes, Jack, it's about you, and so I don't even know where I would go because I don't want to have a conflict with you, so I don't want to do what Mayor said, follow up, because if they're complaining about you and you're not getting back to them, or and sometimes I did ask you about it and you confirmed what they said, but I'm like, what can I do? My hands are tied then.
If you don't wanna call me, just call one of the council persons and ask them to contact me. I'll be glad to take care of it.
Okay.
Say, Steve, can I ask you a question about that reduced conflict? Are they gonna keep those lanes, right lane turns closed?
For the time being, yes. Obviously there hasn't been as many accidents since they, changed the sign to no turns on red at all. My guess is that is probably one of the options, is to keep it that way, but they know that that's not viable either, so there's a few different things they're looking at, making changes, and and they're doing modeling projections on traffic flow, I think out to 2040. And so what they did is they ran a bunch of different scenarios on what would happen in traffic in each direction based on growth patterns and what option would be best. So like I said, they're looking at numbers now, and they're, I think April, we're gonna have another meeting, Jack, if I remember right. End of March, early April, we'll have another meeting, so.
Thanks.
Yeah. And that's all I have. Unless there's anything else from anyone else? Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion made second. Mr. Nelson, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Urkel.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mundell.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye. And that motion passes, and our meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a great night.